The moment Caleb Mercer stepped out of his car in the gravel parking lot of the old lakeside chapel, he felt the familiar weight press against his chest, the kind that came from showing up alone when everyone else arrived in pairs. He adjusted his slightly wrinkled suit, glanced at the glow of warm light spilling from the chapel windows, and told himself he was only here for his sister, only here to be polite, only here to survive a few hours without falling apart. He didn't know that before the night ended, a single unexpected moment would crack open his carefully sealed heart and change the direction of his life forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that arrive when we least expect them, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. It truly helps these stories reach the hearts they're meant for. Caleb was 38, a single father raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, in a small coastal town in Oregon. Life had narrowed itself into routines, school drop-offs, packed lunches, late-night laundry, and the constant balancing act of being both mother and father. His wife Rachel had died 4 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving behind a silence that never fully went away. Friends had slowly stopped inviting him to gatherings, assuming he was too busy or too broken, and he rarely corrected them. It was easier to be invisible than to explain grief that still felt raw. This wedding was his first big social event since the funeral. His younger sister, Hannah, had begged him to come, reminding him gently that Noah would be spending the weekend with their grandparents and that it was okay to step out of survival mode for one night. Caleb agreed. Though the idea of standing alone among laughing couples filled him with quiet dread. He hadn't dated, hadn't even considered it. Loving again felt like a betrayal, and loneliness had become a companion. He didn't know how to leave behind. Inside the chapel, the air smelled of flowers and polished wood. Laughter echoed softly, and Caleb took a seat near the back, nodding politely at distant relatives. He kept his eyes forward, focusing on the ceremony, reminding himself he could leave early. When the vows ended and applause filled the room, a familiar ache bloomed in his chest, not jealousy, but a tender sorrow for what he once had and feared he'd never feel again. The reception was held outdoors near the lake, strings of lights hanging between trees, their reflections dancing on the water. Caleb stood at the edge of the gathering, nursing a glass of soda, watching life unfold around him. That's when he felt it, the sense of being noticed. He turned slightly and across the lawn he saw her. Her name was Grace Holloway, his neighbor from 2 houses down. She had lived there for nearly a year, but their interactions had been limited to polite waves, borrowed mail, and the occasional small talk about the weather. Grace was a widow, too, though Caleb only knew that in passing. From town whispers and a church bulletin mentioned tonight. She wore a deep blue dress that caught the light. Her hair loosely pinned, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on him. Instead of looking away, Grace lifted her arm and waved enthusiastically, drawing attention. Then she called out, not with words Caleb could hear over the music, but with unmistakable intent. Her expression was playful, bold, and warm, as if she were reminding him that he existed, that he was seen. The gesture startled him so much he nearly laughed, a sound that felt foreign in his throat. Something shifted. Against his instincts, Caleb straightened and walked toward her. The night air felt lighter with every step, the tension in his shoulders loosening. They didn't exchange dramatic confessions or sweeping gestures. They simply stood together talking about ordinary things. How strange weddings felt. How fast kids grew up. How quiet the neighborhood had been lately. Yet beneath the surface, something deeper stirred. Grace spoke about her late husband, Michael, with honesty that didn't feel heavy. She spoke of learning how to sit with grief without letting it define her. Caleb listened, surprised by how safe he felt sharing pieces of his own story. There was no pressure, no pity, just understanding that came from lived experience. As the night went on, Caleb found himself smiling more easily, even joining others near the dance floor. Though he stayed on the edges. For the first time in years, he wasn't counting the minutes until he could leave. He felt present. When the bride and groom shared their first dance, Caleb glanced at Grace and noticed the same softness in her eyes, the mix of joy and remembrance. Later, as the crowd thinned and the lights dimmed, Caleb realized something profound. Coming alone hadn't meant being alone. Sometimes life simply waited for the right moment to reintroduce people who needed each other. Not to replace what was lost, but to build something new beside it. Driving home that night, Caleb felt lighter than he had in years. The house no longer felt like an empty shell, but a place where laughter could return. He thought of Noah, of the example he wanted to set, not of endless sadness, but of courage, openness, and faith in what God might still have planned. In the weeks that followed, small changes unfolded. Caleb and Grace began walking their dogs together in the evenings, sharing coffee on the porch, slowly weaving their lives into something gentler and stronger. Noah took to Grace easily, drawn to her patience and warmth. Caleb watched his son laugh and felt a quiet gratitude settle in his heart. He realized love didn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic declarations. Sometimes it arrived with a wave across a lawn, a reminder to look up, to be seen, to step forward even when fear said stay back. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of your own journey through loss, hope, or unexpected connection, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. It truly helps keep these stories alive. And before the story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel or whether you believe in second chances when it comes to love and life. As Caleb tucked Noah into bed one quiet night, he realized the ache in his chest had softened into something warm and steady. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid to find out. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one person brave enough to say without words, "Look at me," and a heart willing enough to finally look.